trade talks here as Butler did not start the other day, and as much as the coaching staff would like to say those different personnel groupings, I mean, it seemed like it really was a little bit of a diminished role for Butler against the Saints.
Sure, yeah, it was different personnel groupings, but it was the first time in 38 games that Malcolm Butler wasn't part of that starting personnel grouping. So that, any way the staff wants to spin it, that's it was an odd occurrence to see that happen. And what made it even stranger was that when Butler came into the game and they went three corners, it wasn't as though he was only covering the smaller guys like Ted Ginn and Tommy Lee Lewis. Butler saw, and they were playing some zone, but he was lined up across from Michael Thomas many times and across from Brandon Coleman. So the argument that some people made that, okay, well, they probably went with Rowe and Gilmore just because Coleman's 6'6" and Michael Thomas is 6'3". I don't know how much validity there is to that, because Butler covered those guys plenty of times on Sunday. So it looked like, if you're examining it like that, that Butler was just demoted behind Eric Rowe, and they thought Eric Rowe was a better option to play more than Butler. Of course, Eric Rowe got hurt, and then Butler ended up playing more snaps because Rowe left early in the third quarter with a groin injury. So Butler's status going forward, it does also depend on, if Rowe has to miss a couple weeks, then maybe these trade talks and everything we're discussing right here maybe cools off for a little bit, because they're going to need Butler to start. But if Rowe's healthy and they truly view Rowe as the number 2 cornerback, I mean, there's every reason to believe that they would at least consider trading Butler at this point in the season. There's the precedent they set with Jamie Collins last year. There's the fact that, I don't know how the contract negotiations have gone exactly, but they didn't get very far this offseason. Butler was not pleased when they didn't really offer him anything, and they signed Gilmore to $30 million guaranteed. That's no secret. So it's trending in the direction that Butler probably isn't going to be on the Patriots in 2018. And generally, the Patriots have liked to get a return on a guy that they're going to see walk in free agency. If they let him play out the year and then he signs elsewhere, he's eligible for the comp pick formula, so they could get a comp pick for him, which would be in 2019. If they trade him right now, you're probably looking at a player-for-player swap, maybe a spot that the Patriots lack depth. Receiver right now just because of the health, but I still think that they might try to add somebody along the defensive front seven. Or if they get a pick, they could use a pick, because they owe Philadelphia either a 3rd or 4th rounder for Eric Rowe, and they owe the Seahawks a 5th rounder for Cassius Marsh. So while they do have a few comp picks coming in for Jabal Sheard and who else?
Mingo left.
No, not Mingo. Jabal Sheard and Martellus Bennett
right
at this point seem like they're going to yield comp picks, so those are 2 4th rounders. So they do have some picks coming in, but they traded a few. So the Patriots like to have those heading into the draft normally to just use as chips. I mean, we saw them use a lot of picks as trade chips this year, so I think it's possible that they trade him for something like Jamie Collins last year, like a 3rd round comp pick, something of that nature, so they can better maneuver the draft board, or trade for another veteran with that pick come next spring.
Yeah, and I mean, how much do you think, Belichick spoke pretty glowingly about both Eric Rowe and Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones in particular on the conference call yesterday.
Yep.
He basically said that the 2 pass breakups he had were like perfect technique, textbook technique. How much do you think that like his progression ends up playing a role into whether or not the Patriots will trade someone like Malcolm Butler, considering there's so many times that teams go to 3 cornerbacks or lots of defensive backs in this year, in today's NFL?
Sure, yeah. I think it has a lot to do with it, because if they weren't comfortable with what they had behind them, they wouldn't trade him, because you're not going to give up someone unless you're getting something that's going to help you. And if they feel they're screwed without Malcolm Butler, then there's no way they'll trade him. Like last year, I imagine that looking back, they felt that they could get by without Jamie Collins, that they didn't need Jamie Collins. That turned out to be the case. I still think he was better than what they had out there, but that turned out to be the case. And then they used that 3rd round pick, and then I think they actually ended up trading it and moved back a little bit. And as I said before, maneuvered the draft board, got guys they wanted, and ended with a guy like Dietrich Wise. They didn't have a 4th round pick going in, and I don't recall off the top of my head how exactly they acquired that 4th rounder to get Wise, but that's now you have Wise under contract for 4 years. He looks like a pretty good player. So I think the chances of trading Butler are increased significantly by the depth they have there, not only at corner, but at safety too, because when they play in nickel, they play 3 safeties a lot. I mean, they play Chung, Harmon, and McCourty in 2 corners. And if Jonathan Jones, you feel, can really be an impactful number 3 corner, and you like Gilmore and Rowe, I mean, that makes it easier to part with someone like Butler.